Why should we have to buy cars that don't work?
How do we get across our gratitude to God for the blessings He gives to everyone without making it sound exclusive?
There's nothing wrong with making $1 million. There's something wrong with keeping it. How did you handle things when life did not go the way you wanted it to go?
Yeah.
What did you think about what I just said, Mark?
All right.
Were you listening to me?
Yes, but it's so far above me. I don't know. I think that if you have a business and nobody wants your product, you should tank. Because I mean,
but what if people aren't
that's the way
buying?
it works.
What if people aren't buying?
Why should we have to buy cars that don't work?
Yeah, but what if the people aren't buying the cars because they don't have any money? Not because the cars aren't good. The truth is that Saturn automobile is now non-existent. It was the best American car on the market. It wasn't the survival of the fittest. We got a lot of lousy American cars that are still in business because we financed the guys at top.
So why didn't they finance Saturn?
I don't even want to finance Saturn. I want to finance people who are buying cars and say, let the consumers buy the car that's
and they'll
best.
buy a Japanese car.
Well, but most of the Japanese cars are made here in the United States, so it's no great problem. I mean, that's the great myth. I'm buying a Japanese car.
I have a Japanese car.
The truth is,
good car.
Yeah, here's an interesting thing. You're not a loyal American?
No, I'm not.
Here it is. When you look at a Chevrolet and ask how many of the parts were made in other countries, I think one of my friends in the economics department at Eastern said more than half of the parts in the typical Chevrolet are made in other countries. Whereas almost all the parts of a Nissan or a Toyota are made here in the United States. So when you buy a Japanese car, you're really buying an American car. And when you buy an American car, you may be buying half of a Japanese car. So that's how confusing the world gets.
It is confusing.
Here he got it.
Here's a question.
This is a good one because he told me about this.
Good.
I'm Harold Kenny from Indianapolis, Indiana, and this question actually came from my wife, Jan, who's with me here. It's sort of a two-parter. We, as Christians, often say that we are blessed by God. It could be by our circumstance, our wealth, whatever. But sometimes we also associate the blessings with, I am blessed that my child survived something that normally would have been fatal. So my child is alive because I am blessed by God. That falls on the ears of non-believers and people who lost loved ones or are struggling as, I'm blessed, you're not.
Right.
How do we get across our gratitude to God for the blessings He gives to everyone without making it sound exclusive?
Yeah.
You want to deal with that first?
Well, I'll tell you a story, since you love stories and I love stories. My nephew was lost in the woods. He was 4 years old. He was lost in the woods for 26 hours in a Virginia winter. And I remember praying for my nephew and watching CNN. There was a Down syndrome child, I believe, that was also lost that very day, and the whole world was looking for this. CNN was on that story. And they found him dead in the snow about the same time they found my nephew sitting in a tree. 26 hours later, alive and well. And I don't know if it was a miracle. I don't know if someone kidnapped my nephew and brought him back when the whole town turned out. I don't know what happened, and he doesn't remember. All I know is that I was praying for that child in the snow that they found. I was praying for him the same time I was praying for my nephew. And probably more people were praying for that child on CNN than they were my nephew. I don't know. But I tell you what, I'm thankful that we found my nephew, and I'm thankful God let us have him back. And I wish that God would have let that Down syndrome child be found. He was only 180 feet from his home, and he was dead in the snow. He couldn't find his home. I don't understand.
Well, there are two things. Let's deal with this. Every once in a while, there's a plane crash, and the reporters get to the airport, and there's a guy who got in a traffic jam and got to the airport late and missed the plane. And I heard this reporter say to this one guy who's being interviewed. You know, you missed the plane and the plane crashed and everybody on board died. God was really with you. Implication.
Yeah. The
God wasn't with the 200 people that were on the airplane. God was with them. He was with them 100%. You say, well, then why the misfortune? And then this question, what do you do when you express gratitude to God for his blessings without sounding arrogant and without implying that people who aren't prosperous are somehow
inferior?
Let me point out two things. First of all, in my theology, we got a New Testament scholar here. He would probably differ with me, but I see a certain preference for the poor in the Scripture. The Beatitudes, blessed are the poor in spirit. And if you go to Luke, the 6th chapter, it's blessed are the poor, period. James really comes out on the side of the poor and has some very serious questions about the rich. Jesus says that rich people are in trouble. When you prosper, be nervous, because it's harder for a rich man to get into the kingdom of heaven than for a camel to go through the eye of a needle. I mean, if you read the scriptures, there's nothing more dangerous than to be rich. You're in precarious territory. So that's the first thing. Blessed are the poor, woe unto you who are rich. That's the first thing. The second thing I would quote is 1 John 3, 17 and 18. Everybody knows John 3:16, but very few people know 1 John 3, 17 and 18, which goes something like this. If you have this world's goods, and you know of brothers and sisters who are in need, and you keep what you have while they suffer, how can you say, I have the love of God in my heart? Whoa, there's no escape from that. I mean, that goes beyond tithing. You say, well, I've given my 1/10. Yeah, but you got 90% left. And you have the means to rescue some people who are in desperate need. How do you justify holding on to your wealth while they're in need? You say, what are you driving at, Camp Paulo? Driving at a quote that I gave earlier. It is the responsibility of every Christian to work as hard as he can, to make as much money as he can, to spend as little as he can, to give away all he can. I've always said there's nothing wrong with making $1 million. There's something wrong with keeping it. And I am saying this, that when you stand up and say, the Lord has really prospered me, I want you to pray for me, because I realize I'm in dangerous territory. It would be much safer for me spiritually to be poor than where I am right now. And secondly, may God give me the grace to understand that this prosperity is not something for me to enjoy. It is something for me to use to meet the needs of others in the name of Christ.
So you don't think the prosperity gospel is a good thing?
No, I don't.
You don't?
I'm following somebody who said the birds have nests, the foxes have holes, the Son of Man has no place to lay his head. And he said this right after he looked at the disciples and said, the servant is not greater than the master. When you talk about unfortunate things...
What the scripture that says, I would that you prosper.
Yeah, but I'm not sure what that means in terms of material goods. Let me just say this. If being a servant of God and faithful would make you prosperous, successful, healthy, wealthy, and wise, then please note this. All of the disciples, save John, died a horrible martyr's death. Is this not true? They all ended up dying a martyr's death. This is not happy. Paul would not go over well in a typical prosperity church. I can just hear him giving his testimony. It's been a great year with Jesus, great year in the Spirit. I was shipwrecked twice, left for dead after being beaten, stoned, humiliated, diseased, and I count it all but joy. You say, this guy's crazy. You're not supposed... but the Christian knows how to rejoice in the midst of tribulation. The real measure of your Christianity is not how wealthy you become. It's how did you handle things when life did not go the way you wanted it to go.